Hi pals, it's me, Artie, they them pronouns only, and I'm going to talk about a show that's been over for a while, but hopefully the algorithm will like me enough. I am going to diagnose everybody in sex education as if I am Jean Milburn. Except minus the sex, I guess. So this was another show I did a recent full rewatch of because I hadn't seen the last season. But then it had been so long since I'd seen the first two. I couldn't remember what happened in season 1, season 2, and I literally couldn't remember actually anything of season 3. So I was like, let's just do a full rewatch, and then I feel like I'm prepared enough to watch the last season. Season 4, by the way, what the fuck was that? There were so many issues I personally had with season 4. But I'm not going to focus on that today. I'm going to focus on our sort of main characters from the first 3 seasons, mostly first 2 seasons. But yeah, as I was doing my rewatch, I was like, oh, yeah, as I thought, everyone's super neurodivergent in some capacity. So I thought I'd bring back just kind of a fun, I diagnose everybody in video. I will obviously start off with our main man, Otis, who is terrible and annoying. And terrible and annoying and terrible and annoying. I headcanon him. Autistic, for one. He's very anxious and seems to be kind of sex/masturbation repulsed, which could very much link into like maybe a sensory issue. He is, for the most part, with other people's problems, not with his life, logical and gives everybody else like really good advice. He's extremely socially awkward, not very good with social cues. Like at all. Like at all. None. No, not a social cue in the house tonight. And he just says a lot of really weird shit, you know, where you like, especially in those social situations, you're just kind of like, ah, you could have just not said that thing. However, you did. And now nobody else knows what to say in response. Thanks, bye. And as I said already, he's very anxious, which is quite a common comorbidity of autism. He is completely, for the most part, completely oblivious to how he treats other people. He holds a lot of his problems in until he literally explodes and has like a massive meltdown, which is extremely ironic, which is obviously a big part of the point of this show, is that even though he has therapist parents, they're not very good at helping him grow up and learn healthy coping mechanisms and strategies, skills, etc. They kind of over-therapize him in a lot of ways. There was also this whole thing about how being on time is late. So he's always early everywhere. And then I think, I can't remember who said this, it was either Maeve or Ruby, maybe somebody else, but somebody says at one point, Otis, for a sex therapist, you're extremely insensitive, which to me reads as autistic white boy, you know? He's also very particular about how he likes things done. He likes his plan, he likes his routine, and doesn't like change. Autism, also with like maybe a smidge of like OCD traits, because that's also common. A lot of autistic people have OCD as well, but also a lot of autistic traits cross over with OCD, and for some people they're stronger. So for my OCDers out there, is that something that you would speculate and agree with? Next up is Eric, and I have diagnosed him with ADHD. He's overexcited and enthusiastic, has so much energy. Also has a lot of RSD, lots of like that rejection sensitive dysphoria going on, particularly with Otis when he's got his crush on Maeve at the beginning, and then doing the sex clinic and all that sort of thing. And also he gets a lot of RSD with Adam when Adam wants to keep him a secret. Very valid reasons, because all these people were not tackling that very well, were they? He is very physically affectionate, so he doesn't really have the same sort of like issues of autism with sensory stuff. Eventually becomes like a dopamine dresser. He tried to be Maeve's role at one point for the sex clinic, like the booking person, and he forgot every single thing because he didn't have a diary to write it all in, so he thought he could remember it all. Didn't remember any of it. He could just kind of remember the names and times, but didn't know who was what and where. ADHD, babe. Next up, Jackson. Obviously, generalized anxiety disorder. This poor boy. This poor boy. However, I do have questions. ADHD, maybe? He's an athlete, so I'm thinking one of the energetic ADHDers, not the sleepy kind like me. You know, he has a lot of different natural skills and talents and hobbies. Gives that gifted kid vibe, you know. He's popular, he's a jock, he's the head boy, he is good at drama and singing, I think was the other thing, as well as being a jock and athlete and such forth.
Would also say maybe the reason why he is so high achieving is that his parents, or at least one parent, basically is in charge of his schedule and keeps him on track, which is definitely a thing a lot of ADHDers notice, that, you know, normally as a teenager it's like your parent or guardian of some kind that is keeping you on track and helping you with everything, and then you become an adult, don't have that support system anymore, and that's when a lot of ADHD traits suddenly like hit you in the face that you never really learned how to cope with, because you always had / needed that support of a guardian at home.
Obviously we know his anxiety, he's on meds, he's been on them since he was 11, has massive panic attacks, pukes in the mornings, and before big like athletic events and stuff. Again, another huge comorbidity, ADHD and anxiety. And he says, it's the only time I feel like my mind's not going 100 miles an hour. I think that's when he was smoking weed with Cal, which, yeah, very ADHD coded. Very ADHD coded. A lot of my ADHD friends who smoke weed say the same thing. Then of course we have Maeve. Autistic, obviously. She's... I headcanon that she is autistic and BPD. She gives a lot of that manic pixie dream girl energy, right? She's the angry, overly intellectual kind of autistic BPD. Blunt, honest, motivated by survival, but still has strict values around her like morality. She's very suspicious of others, closed off. She's been repeatedly hurt over the years, so also maybe throw in a little bit of a CPTSD. And then I would say her special interest is mainly feminist literature, but also generally literature. Also very PDA autistic, so pathological demand avoidance, constantly breaking the rules until it really comes down to like the final line where she's trying not to get thrown out of school, but also who fucking cares then anyway vibes. So that's my Maeve Wiley diagnosis.
And then kind of the opposite to Jackson, because Maeve didn't have a support system, much of her life regularly falls apart because nobody was there to support her or teach her the coping skills she needed.
And then of course we have Amy, who I headcanon not just as autistic, because I know it's that's like a well discussed topic, but I specifically think she's ADHD autistic. She is gullible and easily persuaded into doing things that her like, especially by her popular like shitty friends in like that first season. She doesn't find mean jokes funny. but is accidentally very mean when she's being honest with people because she is very blunt. A good example of that was when she was trying to tell Adam that no, there's no chance of them getting back together. She really wants to follow the rules, but often gets peer pressured into breaking rules. So, like, parties she's thrown at her own house, the rules were not to have massive parties, but she gets talked into throwing it anyway because she's the one with the big house and no family in town. Then there's this really funny interaction she has with someone where she's really upset. He says he can tell I'm being fake, and they respond, well, are you? And she says, yeah, I'm always fake. Autistic masking, anyone? Autistic masking. She often as well asks questions without fully realising the situation. She asks these questions before she really thinks about it, particularly like when she met Isaac and asked him why he was in a wheelchair. However, that's also just a non-disabled person thing. However, I think her intentions were different. But also, she then can't remember Isaac when she meets him again because she's really bad with faces. And the term like face blindness, which I don't like to use, so I don't use it, but I can never remember the official terminology for it, is very common among autistic people. But she is good with names, and she is very literal when she is painting in art class in, I think, season 4, because that's when she gets closer with Isaac, because they're both doing art. A-levels, I guess? What fucking year are they in? And then actually I'm also going to diagnose Jean. I think Jean's autistic. You know, obviously special interest, taken over her whole life and her career. I mean, a lot of autistic people I know as well get into psychology stuff anyway, even if it's not professionally, because how the fuck do you work out how people work safely without, like, you know, without having to actually speak to people? You read about it. You read about it. She's also like the cool mum to everybody else except Otis. So I feel like that's kind of an autistic thing for her, is that she doesn't really abide by those rules again. So that demand avoidance and not just blindly following societal expectations, being more likely to question societal expectations. She's also known as the safe person for all of Otis's friends and classmates, but isn't to him. She was the person Eric called to pick him up, for example, when I think he got... I can't remember which one that was. Was that the Hedwig episode? There was also another episode where he turned up to find Otis and he wasn't there, and they sort of had a chat in the doorway before Eric went off to school.
And all of his, like, not like classmates or schoolmates, but, you know, other people that went to school with Otis all thought she was really cool because she was willing to talk about things openly and honestly in a way that no other adult was willing to do, that were, like, considered kind of taboo. And then I think even Maeve kind of opened up to Jean as well, and we know Maeve doesn't open up to anybody.
And also, again, sprinkle a little bit of CPTSD in there due to her childhood trauma that we learn more about in season 4. Jakob. This man was done so fucking dirty at the end of season 3 into season 4. Done so fucking dirty. How dare they get rid of my Jakob? Bitch. ADHD, obviously. He's a bit bizarre, a bit erratic. The reason why his daughter has to drive him around is because he gets speeding tickets a lot and has a suspended license. Very ADHD, very common among untreated ADHDers to break rules like driving laws in particular. He's not like easily freaked out, just kind of rides the wave of like the weirdness of life. He's very upfront when asked questions, but he's so messy, like literally messy, literally just so messy. When he is living with Jean, or like when he spends a lot of time with her, she's getting, this is another more reasons why Jean autistic Jean gets really like frustrated, upset, and like definitely feels like her space is invaded, her routine is out of whack because he's either always there, everything's messy, he's in the kitchen, he walks in on appointments, or he's drilling something in the house that disturbs her appointments that she's running, etc, etc. So reasons for both of them to be ADHD and then autistic. On to Adam. I know, right, look, I know this is a contentious topic. I am an Adam sympathiser. I understand he is a terrible person. However, he is a fictional character, so I feel like I'm allowed to have my guilty pleasures of terrible fictional characters that I love. I headcanon him as autistic, dyslexic, and ADHD. Just like me, bitch. Never prepared for school. Good with dogs and generally animals, even though he's terrified of horses in season 4. Can train dogs without even knowing how to train them. Like, he's never really read about it or learned it or been taught it. He's just been able to do it somehow. I did that with my current dog. Somebody asked him, since when do you ask questions? And he says, I'm trying to work on my small talk. Very autistic. He has terrible hand-eye coordination, which is really funny because he looks like he would be an athlete, being so tall. But no, terrible. Terrible. Can't lock doors. Me. That's how they broke into the job he had at the shop. I have many issues trying to lock doors. It's basically one of my, like, if I was a sim, that would be one of my traits. Can't lock doors. Ola says that she loves him like a friend, and he has never been told that they, like, by anyone that they love him, like, ever before. And he gives her, like, this really big hug. He also struggles to talk about or explain his feelings. So he definitely gives off a lot of alexithymia problems. And then obviously we know he misbehaves at school a lot. That's putting it lightly, I know. Enough that he was thrown off into military school. He lied to protect some gays. So got thrown back out for...
I said being gay, but it absolutely wasn't that. He had been stitched up with weed, I think.
He then was working at the shop, and then I think when that school sort of like broke into pieces, he was then at this, he was trying to find other jobs and ended up at this job where the horses and stuff are, and he was like learning how to be like a horse, how to take care of horses and be like a horse riding teacher or some shit like that. I don't know. Either way. Oh, and oh my god, and he broke that fucking fence trying to move a tractor out of the way for a delivery because no one else was around. Me.
Similar to Maeve, he doesn't have that support system at home. However, he does at least have those family members around that he starts to rebuild relationships with. So his life falls apart quite a lot. However, he does also have the challenges of learning related disabilities, so like the ADHD and dyslexia. That means that he can't really rely on this idea of being a gifted kid to get him through life into adulthood like Maeve can. And then also something I mentioned later for Lily about the public humiliation. He's also one of the students who's publicly humiliated, but also for a thing that he didn't even do. He was just trying to cover up for somebody else and their huge amounts of embarrassment, because he's known to be the fuck up, useless, gross guy who's just never going to amount to anything. So he took the blame for that incident, to save face for somebody else.
Ola, I would also say, probably is ADHD like her dad. I find that she's very like relaxed, confident, very truthful in sort of just like a blasé kind of way. Yeah, so she's very direct. She says why she had to change schools because the head teacher was embezzling money. and then also just directly asked Otis why he didn't call her when he was supposed to call her at one point very early on. She's a little bit gender non-conforming in, at least like in the first season she's in, which I think is 2, no 1, I don't know. And like obviously we have Lily, who's obviously autistic, right? Obviously. Special interest and hyperfixation. It's basically sex and aliens. She's like quite a textbook autistic in her responses. Very abrupt, very upfront about what she wants or needs or feels. Usually quite a flat effect face when she is talking to people. Not subtle. Defines herself as a type A person. And very big dopamine dresser. Definitely has, like, I don't know, there was that whole thing. Remember that TikTok noise or sound, whatever, that went round that was her, and it was about how she's an embarrassment because of her story, and everyone was mocking her for her like peculiar interests, and was being shamed into being normal in, I think, season 3. Very autistic coded, being publicly humiliated and shamed at school by your peers and teachers into acting like you are a normal, not autistic child, and then being extremely depressed about that. We also have Viv, who is also autistic, okay? So, focused and dedicated, has routine down. Socially awkward, no friends, suspicious of Jackson like being friendly with her. She's very competitive, very direct, doesn't understand the social norms, and also just does not care for them. When she's met with the reality of a person she's hyper fixated on, she is disappointed, and she tends to have these hyper fixations on different people. For a while it was Jackson, there was obviously that guy, was it Eugene? Something like that, online. Then it was the guy she was dating in season 4, but also kind of the head teacher in season 3. But yeah, so she's disappointed by these people because there's not enough of the depth that she has perceived or made up in her own mind when she actually gets to know these people, so they don't meet her expectations of what she thinks they should be, doesn't meet her standards. And then Jackson says the reason she doesn't have any friends is because she's a robot. That right there, boom, robot comparison, autism, right there. And then yeah, also in season 4 she does end up in an abusive relationship, which is extremely common and even more likely to happen when you are autistic, a woman. That was like such a that was one of the like horrible plot lines of season 4. It was really like, I really did not like that. Obviously I did not like that. But like, I don't know. Again, been a little while since I did my full rewatch, so I can't remember exactly what happened. But like, I can't remember if I thought the representation was good or not. But I just remember it being really horrible to watch. So at least I guess that's the one thing done correctly. And then the last person I'm going to cover is Ruby, because honestly, what a bitch, but what an icon. I fucking love her. I'm gonna give her a BPD label because I feel like she is so traumatized that the trauma is covering other signs that could be other neurodivergence that she has. So she needs a lot of help, you know. I feel so bad for the girl. I love her. Yeah, traumatized by past friendships. We learn this in season 4, that she was a very uncool child, and the one time someone was like nice to her at camp ended up throwing her under the bus to get popularity themselves. In season 4 as well, she loses all of her friends due to the college split, and feels very isolated and doesn't know how to make friends, so offers her skills to people at college to try and make friends, and uses all of her previous like mechanisms that she used to use in her previous college, but they don't work because things are a bit different here, so she doesn't know how to deal with that.
Also, being romantically jilted by this guy won't help.
She's very shielded, her walls are up, she's very defensive, she's a bitch as a defense. It's you know, it's better to be feared than pitied or bullied. She's very protective of her home life and her family, particularly of her dad, as he is disabled, and she is sort of like a kind of a child carer. She's obviously not like a full-time child carer, but does a lot of caring for her dad before and after school. And she fears opening up, fears abandonment. It takes a lot to get Ruby to open up. So that was me diagnosing a bunch of the sex education characters with some kind of neurodivergence. Let me know what you think in the comments, obviously. The, like, you know, the usual disclaimer of this is just like a silly little bit of fun where, you know, these are headcanons. These are my perception of these characters. They do not inherently mean, you know, autism looks exactly like Lily or ADHD looks exactly like Eric, you know, that sort of thing. It's just that I recognise a lot of these traits that are familiar to me in my life, familiar to friends I have, and many shows and films will not name those traits as autism or ADHD, especially like when sex education was initially coming out. It sort of only became a little bit more popular and accepted in that, I think maybe that last season or two. But like, yeah, it's a show that I think looks really cool. The aesthetics are really interesting. I think the initial plot was good, but I feel like as we got through the seasons, a lot of things just kind of fell apart for me personally. So yeah, let me know if you'd like any further videos on sex education. I did start making notes about Adam specifically because I was going to make just a video about him being autistic, but I mean, just I guess generally neurodivergent. But I thought this would just be like a more fun overall one to do. And then yeah, I was thinking about talking about just season 4, particularly like mainly the asexual representation maybe in the whole show, because it's honestly a bit naff. I know there was a bit of drama that went on with why that sucked in season 4, but yeah, like I already had loads of other videos at the time when I was rewatching that I was getting ready to do, so let me know if those are things you would like to see as well. Let me know what you headcanon characters as, characters I didn't talk about. Do you want to let me know what you think the diagnosis would be? And yeah, this was my first video sitting in my funny like kneeling chair. I still have sciatica, so I've had to move around a bit because it hurts regardless of the position I am in. It just will hurt after a while. So I think I need to go take some cocodamol, and soon it will be time for my second ADHD medication. So and I need to go eat lunch. My leg hurts so much from this sciatica, fucking bitch. I like that the characters are not perfect, and I like that they are flawed and layered. I do not like, however, some of the storytelling of the show, especially in season 4, but I'm probably other seasons too, makes you automatically take Otis's side in a lot of the like things going on, because he's kind of the main character, the leading character, even though he's definitely in the wrong and definitely being an asshole. I think the show did that a little bit too much, especially in season 4, like I said, but I'm glad that some characters got to like give it back to him. But yeah, anyway, I'm moving away. My chair has wheels. Come back. So yeah, anyway, that was my video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, watch, share the videos. It all really helps. I am so fucking close to my 1k, for getting to partner, because as of today I think it was no, not 100, I can't count. 988 subscribers, I believe, and then view count Please watch all my other videos too. XOXO Gossip Girl. Love and appreciate you. Thanks. But yes, that was my video for this week. I hope you enjoy, and I will see you next week. Bye. I can't reach.